This interview with Kingsmill Bond, who is an energy analyst and director of Ember Energy, is an excerpt from a longer interview I did a few days ago about a couple of papers that he and his team have authored. That would be Dan Walter and Sam Butler-Sloss. And it's called, well, first one is called The Long March of Electrification, came out in July, and The Electrification Imperative. So the basic argument that Kingsmill is making in this particular interview has three parts to it. And the first is that electrification of an economy or the global economy is a step change in energy technology. That does three things. So the cost of electricity comes down, the cost of energy comes down, the efficiency and performance of the end use technologies goes up, and their cost comes down, and ultimately energy becomes cheaper and more abundant, and that leads to more people using it, to lower costs for consumers, and better competitiveness for those economies that get out in front of the trend and electrify first.
Okay, I think we wrote this piece called the Electrification Imperative, where we made the argument that the energy system has basically got two vectors in it. You've got the production of electricity, where it's solar and wind fighting against fossil fuels, where incidentally that battle is essentially won by solar wind now 100% of the growth in electricity supply, and it's just a question of time before they push fossil fuels down and out of the system. And then but the second vector is the electrification of all end uses. And in the same way as in after 1900 or after 1800, you needed coal and steam. Now you need renewables and electrification in order for the energy transition to take place. And one of the glories of electrification is that it is in many countries, by definition, a local energy source. You're getting energy now that all incremental supply of electricity is coming from solar and wind. It means that at a marginal basis, marginal margins move markets. At a marginal basis, all of your incremental supply of electricity is local, and that means that for countries which are worried about the autarkic world that we're shifting into, electrification is the best solution that you can come up with in order to reduce your dependency on fossil fuel imports and increase your energy security. So yeah, we just wanted to say that electrification is a slightly overlooked but vital vector of the transition.
Well, I would certainly agree with that. And one of the trends that I'm beginning to notice quite strong, it's a very strong trend, and that is with electricity demand growing, power grids are becoming more and more strained.
Mhm.
And in response, industry, especially large commercial businesses, are looking at self-generation as a way to protect their assets, their factories, and what have
Yeah.
you. And it seems to me, we've been talking a long time about distributed energy resources. So
Mhm.
particularly solar coupled with batteries, throw in digital controls so that you can control the electricity that you're generating, off of your rooftops, solar panels, whatever it is. And that combination, now what we're seeing is factories saying, I can't rely on the grid. My business, my factory can't go down for a long period of time. That's just an enormous cost to me. So for me to generate my own electricity, store it in batteries, and then just still have a connection to the grid as insurance for backup, that seems to be gaining momentum. And I wonder how significant you think that will be.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a question of price, it's a question of reliability, it's a question of risk management. But at the end of the day, it's also simply because we can do this thing. We couldn't do it before, and now that solar and wind and batteries got so cheap, people can aspire to satisfying most of their electricity requirements. So we did a piece at Ember, and we looked at how far you could get if you had just solar and batteries in about 20 different locations around the world, taking into account intermittency and all the rest of it. We were quite surprised. We basically found that you can get, certainly in the global sun belt, which is the global south, you can get to 90% of your electricity coming from just solar and batteries in this vast swathe of the world. I mean, and the worst region or country we looked at in the world was Birmingham in England, where it's 62%. But nevertheless, these are very high numbers, and the world is a long way away from there. So there's a huge efficiency gain, localization gain to be had by companies and countries which want to do this.
Well, let's talk about another aspect of this, which is we've already talked about higher efficiency, lower costs, but the ease of transition into electrical processes. And I'll just use my own experience as an example. In our home, we had our gas furnace go out 4 years ago. We replaced it with a heat pump, and the process it was a straight in swap. There was no re-engineering. It wasn't hard to do. When our hot water tank went out, we switched from natural gas to electric. And again, the same thing. So what's happening is that people are now able to purchase more efficient, lower cost, better technology, and switching over is just very easy. And that speeds things up.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not easy for everyone in fairness, but certainly the future lies in electrification technologies. And if you think that giant businesses were built in the last century essentially by electrifying manual work, dishwashers and washing machines and so on and so forth, and now we can actually start to electrify a lot of areas that we have been using fossil fuels for, low temperature heat, for example, transport, um, and, and don't forget that these are sectors which make up about two-thirds of all fossil fuel demand. So people again like love to index on and focus on the really hard to solve sectors. But that's not our argument. Our argument simply is that the huge swathes of demand in the fossil fuel sector, which can be replaced, and they're just easier and cheaper. If I may make, Mark, one further argument, we looked at the size of the markets, and the point to me is that your electrification markets are already three times bigger than the kind of solar panel wind turbine market. So I'm talking here about electric vehicles and heat pumps and all the electric machinery. They're far larger already than the kind of decarbonisation of electricity technologies, and that's where all the growth lies in the future. So again, if you're in Canada and you're looking to build the businesses of the future, you want to be figuring out how you can make the electrification machinery to start replacing the machinery that's currently using fossil fuels. Because if you don't do it, the Chinese are going to do it before you.